Yes, people, what's happening? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another edition of the Opposition Preview. First things first, guys, you don't know what to do. Make sure you're smashing those likes, subscribing if you're new around here, and as always, leave your thoughts in the comments below. And after a disappointing defeat at Anfield last weekend, Chelsea returned to winning ways with a convincing 4-1 win against Panathinaikos on Thursday night. But coming up on Sunday is the first of two games against Newcastle in the space of 3 days, I think, and the Blues needing a return to winning ways. But this is going to be a tough one. Newcastle, haven't had the best of starts, but I was looking at the table. You're only 2 points behind us. It's amazing how sort of narratives form that Chelsea have had a brilliant start and Newcastle maybe looking a bit stale. But you're only 2 points behind us, so it's going to be a tricky game. But to talk all things Newcastle, the game itself, I'd like to be joined by Pete from Loaded Mag. Mate, thanks for coming on as always. Greatly appreciated. Talk to me, Newcastle. What are we saying this season? Obviously, it's a disappointing summer. We've spoken quite a lot over on your channel as well. Disappointing summer. The window wasn't great. Is it fair to say that there's a feeling that it's gone a bit stale at Newcastle? You had your Champions League season, then it kind of expectedly dropped off a little bit last season. And then this season has kind of been a bit of a mixed start. It's no winning in your last 4 Premier League games. I mean, what's kind of the current feeling amongst Newcastle fans?
Yeah, I think ultimately it's been quite a bit of a destabilising year for Newcastle United, really, from where we were getting Champions League football, fighting near the top table. The expectations for Newcastle fans grew and grew. But you've touched on it. The last season wasn't great. Injuries were a massive factor in that. Just missed out on Europe. I do believe if we'd have got Europe, if Man United, of course, didn't win the FA Cup, we finished in a European spot. And had we finished in a European spot, I think the feeling would have been slightly different going into the summer. But we were very much deflated after missing out on Europe, getting so close, despite the injuries and all the rest of it. We've then been destabilised further. Obviously, Amanda Staveley, Mir Dagoudoussi leaving as part of the ownership team. The PSR issue where we had to sell Elliot Anderson and Jakub Minter to Brighton to be able to solidify PSR. Then we had Paul Mitchell come in. It's just been one thing after another, and it's been a bit all over the place. I think fans at the moment are a little bit unsure is probably the right word to describe fans' feelings. We're unsure of what the direction is and where we're going at the moment. It's a weird one because you just said it, Charlie, and I kind of hadn't really thought about it. We are only sort of 2 points behind you guys in part of that chasing pack, and it does seem like the narrative is quite harsh on us with where we are. But actually, from what fans are seeing, is that ultimately we picked points up at the beginning of the season, not playing good football. We weren't playing well. But we were still picking up points, and that's okay to a point. I was quite happy to take that. Not playing well, but still getting results. Always thinking, you know what, results are going to come. Performances are going to come at some point. So then it will mash together. Now, what we've seen is the bit of the opposite in the last 4. Is that the performances have been there, dominating in possession, creating opportunities and chances. But what we've not had is points on the board, and the big key is we're not putting chances away.
That kind of surprises me though, mate, because I look at Newcastle and think, last season you scored quite a lot of goals. I know Isak's not always been available, but you look at, generally speaking, over the last couple of seasons, Newcastle scoring goals has not been a problem. But I was just having a look before we done this, and you haven't scored more than a goal in your last 5 games in all comps. It was 1 against Fulham, 1 against City, 1 against Wimbledon, none against Everton, and none against Brighton. Why do you think scoring goals for Newcastle has been a bit of a problem this season? Because you've got players that know where the back of the net is. Isak's a good player. Gordon obviously has scored goals in the past. Barnes pops up with a few here and there. What do you think it is that's stopping you guys from scoring goals at the moment?
Well, it's exactly that. Those players that you've just touched on. I mean, Harvey Barnes aside, Harvey Barnes is our top scorer with 3 goals, but he doesn't start. He mostly starts and starts off on the bench and comes off and impacts the game. So that's a strange situation considering we paid 38 million for him. But then you look at the other 2 in particular. You look at Isak and you look at Gordon. They both had disrupted starts to the season. Anthony Gordon came back and he was not fit. he wasn't fit after Euros, and you could argue, well, he's been with England, he's been training this, that, and the other, but he wasn't playing. And he's had a small rest, come back in, and he hasn't been fit, not to the fitness that Eddie Howe expects. And it's took him a while now. Probably the Man City and Brighton games is where we've really kind of seen him close to being back to his best. And yeah, he's not really been sort of at it. Alexander Isak wasn't getting the chances, and then he broke his toe and he was out for a month. And so he's been disrupted. He looked more like himself against Brighton at the weekend, but missed big chances, 2 or 3 big chances in the game. One was a one-on-one. We expect him to put that away. So it's been a massive disruption. Then you've got Callum Wilson hasn't kicked a ball since the end of April. And now he's injured again. He's going to be out for another 3 games. We've heard from Eddie Howe's press conference. And fans have had enough. They want him gone. They want a new striker in January, quite rightly so. And then you've got Miguel Almiron and Murphy, who are the 2 most inconsistent right wingers you could ever have in your team. If you're a top half of the table Premier League team, you've got 2 wingers there that will run all day for you. But in terms of putting the ball in the net, there's no guarantee. They don't score a lot of goals. And so we've got, it's weird to say, but we've got a distinct lack of firepower. And that's what's letting us down. And, we scored 85 goals last season. We were 3rd or 4th highest goal scorers in the Premier League. We scored goals. And this is the shock for Newcastle fans, is that we're in a position now where we just don't know where the next goal's coming from.
I mean, you talk about sort of looking ahead to this game a little bit. Obviously, the away form, it's not been amazing over the last few seasons. Even at the start of this season, I think it's 1 win from 4 games on the road. I think your only win on the road was away at Wolves. I think it was a draw at Bournemouth, a defeat to Fulham, and then a goalless draw against Everton. So how much of a concern is the away form? Because the away form being bad, you correct me if I'm wrong, but that's not just a new thing this season. That's been a problem for quite a while under Eddie Howe, hasn't it? Why do you think you boys struggle away from home?
You're absolutely right, Charlie. It's a huge problem. It was a massive issue last season. It was part of the reason why we had such a poor middle end of the season. We just couldn't get a win away from home. Like, we looked like 2 completely different teams. Now, the season we finished 4th, we had a proper mentality at home. We had a monstrous mentality at home, but we also took that into away games and were really difficult to beat. First and foremost, we were difficult to beat. We either drew or we won. That was kind of how it was. Last season, the opposite. Our mentality going into away games was the opposite to how we were at home. At home, we were still doing well, still winning most games. But away from home, there was just this negative, different mentality. And Newcastle fans talked about it, like that mental fragility. Within the players and how we set up home and away. It is very, very different now. This is a historical thing, particularly going to big grounds, Stamford Bridge, Old Trafford, Etihad, the Emirates. This is a mentality thing that's going back 20, 30 years, ever since I've supported the club. And we have had a mentality going to these big games. And if you go back for all of those clubs, especially yours, 12 years since we last won there, and I don't even think I think we may have got 1 or 2 draws in that time.
There was a draw a couple of seasons ago, like last game of the season, but there's nothing really riding on the matches at that point.
We'd already got Champions League by that point. It was done. We were giving, like, Gordon played. I was there that day in the away end, and we were giving Gordon his first proper start in the team. And you go back through it, and there is a mental fragility there that is a massive concern. And Eddie Howe knows it. He's been asked about it in numerous press conferences. We've got to get it right. We've got to have a mentality that we're going to go out, either a game plan. We talked about it on my preview, mate. There's got to be a game plan in there. Do we set up to be hard to beat, or do we set up to go, right, we're going to go toe-to-toe with you. We're going to attack you as much as you attack us. There has to be a mentality there, not let's see how it plays out, and then before you know it, we're losing the game, because that's how it tends to be. So it is a massive concern within the fan base, and we're waiting to see something as fans. We're waiting to see, right, what have you got for us, Newcastle? And this is why Sunday's a really intriguing game for us.
I mean, how do you see this one going, mate? Because as you touched on there, that your record at Stamford Bridge is not good, but at some point records come to an end. They don't go on forever. But how are you expecting Newcastle to approach this one? Obviously, Isak back is a big plus. He might have been back for Brighton. I actually don't know, but obviously him being back is a positive. Gordon, is a dangerous player, but again, probably lacking a little bit of form. I like the midfield. Tonali, Bruno Guimaraes, and Joelinton's a very good midfield, and despite you don't actually let in that many goals. I know you've lost a few games this season, but it's only been by the odd goal most of the time. So you're not conceding an awful lot of goals. How do you expect Eddie Howe to set up in this one? And what from a Chelsea perspective, what do we need to be worried about? I mean, I suppose the obvious ones are Gordon and Isak, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, look, I fully expect Eddie Howe to set up in the way he always sets up, 4-3-3. Counter-attacking type football, particularly away from home, try and soak up pressure, try and squeeze the play. We don't play a massively high line, certainly not a Brighton high line, but it's high enough to try and squeeze the game. And I think it'll be high intensity, high pressure on the front. Gordon and Isak will, and potentially Murphy if he plays. I would prefer Harvey Barnes, but they'll probably go Murphy. I'll expect that front three to be pressing you guys high when you've got the ball and bringing it out. Like, that's how I fully expect it to be. But I actually kind of want to see something different. I want to see a different approach. We talked about potentially a 5 at the back, wing backs. Lewis Hall, for example, ex-Chelsea, very, very good at left back, being a really, really top performer this season for us. He can play left wing back, him and Tino, and trying to maybe outthink Maresca in terms of the way in which we set up, give him something different to think about. But I don't expect that. I expect him to do the same as what he normally does. And look, at times it works. I mean, I'm looking at the team. You're absolutely right. Isak is the main threat in terms of goal scoring. We do put a lot of emphasis on him putting the ball in the net, but he takes on that responsibility. And normally when he gets the chances, he puts them away. We need Gordon to step up with more goals. He's got a couple this season, but we need him to be more of a, I mean, he got 10 goals, 10 assists, or 11 goals, 10 assists last season. So we know he can do it. We need him to step up and be more of a consistent goal scorer. What I want to see in particular on Sunday is what we're seeing is a very combative, a very dominating midfield with Tonali, Bruno, and Joelinton.
You've got some physicality in there. It's good. You like, that's one thing we've struggled with is like physicality, like physical battles in midfield. We've got good midfield players, but they're not like the biggest guys. Like someone like Caicedo's a phenomenal player, but if you're up against big guys like Bruno and big guys like Joelinton, he's probably going to come off second best on the physical side of things. Probably the same with Lavia, same with Enzo Fernandez, depending on what combination of players play. So in terms of the physical side of the game, you guys should potentially have the better of us in the midfield from a physicality standpoint. And I think that's somewhere where you can really maybe impose yourselves is in that middle of the park, which is going to be so key. Obviously, we do make quite a few defensive errors individually. You never know what Sanchez is going to turn up. You never know if someone's going to make a mistake at the back. And you've got the players that can absolutely punish us. We played well at Liverpool, but ultimately we got let down by 2 defensive mistakes. And against the better sides, that's going to cost you the game. And, Newcastle are up there with the better sides. I mean, having said your away record has not been great, our home record this season is 1 win from 4. We lost to City, we beat Brighton, but then we drew against both Palace and Forest. So, our home form, despite us playing quite well this season, the home form so far, despite good performances in most of those games, we haven't been able to get over the line in 3 out of 4 home games this season, which is definitely something that needs to change. But, mate, from a Chelsea perspective, what have you made of us, and kind of what are your concerns, for your boys on Sunday?
Very impressed with Chelsea. Very, very impressed. I spoke to a couple of Chelsea fans over the summer, and one of them's a really good friend of mine. And I said, with the signings that you've made, with the investment that you put in, like people are saying, aim for Champions League. For me, your aim should be at least 3rd this season. With the investment that you've made. I mean, look, we had a chat last night and we'll talk about the game against Panathinaikos. The fact that you put out a completely different 11 and that 11 absolutely wiped the floor with Panathinaikos in the Europa Conference League just tells you the strength in numbers. Like, there's no other team that's ever played in that competition that's been able to do that successfully and with the type of strength that you've got. I think there's most Premier League teams that would do anything to have the likes of João Felix and the likes of Mudryk in their starting lineup for their Premier League team, let alone having them purely for the Europa Conference. And the fact that you haven't even got Cole Palmer registered just tells you the strength there that you've got now. What the big question was going into the summer, a lot of people didn't have confidence in you guys making that rise and being back up there because everyone was waiting to see what was going to happen. You've invested a lot in previous years. You put a manager in place to take that forward, and it hasn't quite worked out. And everyone thought, well, is it going to be more of the same again? And a lot of people expected it to be that. Now, it wasn't. It wasn't that at all. You guys have got a manager in Maresca where there was question marks. It's come in and knitted that together. There were question marks about not registering certain people in Europa Conference and various other things. And they go, oh, is he making the wrong decision here? Well, no. Ultimately, it's played exactly how we wanted it to play because you're playing some really good attacking football. You are looking really strong. If it's not going well, what you've got is strength in numbers. So you can bring 5 subs off of elite quality off the bench to impact the game when things are not going well with the players that are starting. And that's a really good strength to have, particularly as we get into the December, January, February, where games and things get really tight. You're going to still be strong and fresh to be able to make the difference. And those points potentially could put you in a really good position going late on into the season. So I've been really impressed with Chelsea. I think you guys are going to get for sure, you're going to get top 4. You're going to get Champions League. But I've got a sneaky feeling, and going back to the point that I've just made, December, January, February time, I think you guys are going to really surprise some people. And I think come December, January, there is going to be a conversation about Chelsea either in a title race or certainly you're going to be in at least 3rd position. And one of Man City, Liverpool or Arsenal are going to be below you in the table, and you're going to be right in that conversation. Now, I'm not saying you're going to win the league, but I think around that time there will be that conversation because of the strength of your team. You've done really well, and I've been impressed with what I've seen, mate.
No, I certainly hope so. I think, a big strength of ours is we've got goals in the team. I know we don't always score more than one, but I think apart from the first game of the season, we've scored in every game. So that's a plus. The firepower is really good. I mean, it doesn't seem to matter what combination of players play. Everyone knows their job, and the team still performs well. We made 11 changes for Panathinaikos Thursday night, and the team plays exactly the same. Everyone knows what they're doing, and that's a sign of a well-coached team. That it doesn't matter what pieces of the puzzle are out there. Everyone performs to the best of their ability, and everyone does the job that they're supposed to do regardless of the personnel. So that's a sign of a well-coached team. But at the same time, we're in a tricky run here. We lost to Liverpool. We need to beat you boys on Sunday. We then got you away in the cup. Then we've got Man United away and Arsenal at home. Now, it's all very well saying we've started well, and we have, but we now, having lost at Liverpool, we need to win 2 of the next 3 really before the break. So we need 2 wins from Newcastle, Man United and Arsenal, which is going to be a big ask. So yeah, whilst we've started well, we're 6th, you boys are 9th, but as we said, there's only 2 points between us. So you beat us on Sunday and you're ahead of us, and suddenly the picture looks very different, and Chelsea might be 7th, 8th or 9th, and then suddenly what's been a good start in the space of a week has suddenly changed to, hang on a second, Chelsea are now 9th in the table. So it's amazing, like these things can change very quickly. So it's important that we keep the momentum rolling and we do return to winning ways. But I mean, mate, what are your thoughts on sort of a score prediction? Do you fancy your boys to cause I say an upset? It's a bit disrespectful, maybe, but do you fancy your boys to take something from this?
Well, it would, for me, it would be an upset because our record there is shocking, and we don't get points there very often. However, look, I'd be lying if I said, I expect us to come in and win. That's what my heart is telling me. I want us to win, of course. But from a realistic perspective, I think the best that we could probably hope for with the strength and depth that you've got and the uncertainty about where we're at right now as a club and as in a team that's playing well, I'd probably say a draw. I'd be more inclined to believe that we could get. So for me, in terms of a score prediction, I've kind of gone 1-1.
Yeah, fair.
I think That's what my heart's telling me. My head is telling me we'll probably lose 2-1. But my heart would say, we can go there and get something. We are capable. You've talked about it. We've got players that can hurt you. Your form, which I wasn't quite aware of until you mentioned it, not winning sort of 4 out of 5 at home.
That's 1 win from 4 at home. Yeah, it's not great.
That kind of fills me with a little bit of confidence that we can go and disrupt things. But for me, I'd say 1-1. If we can go there and take a point from you, that's a good result for us at a difficult place to play, and then would set us up really for you to come to us midweek.
I mean, mate, I could easily see this being a 1-1. I think we've probably just about got enough. I think we've got enough firepower to probably sneak past you lads. I think it'll be closer than what a lot of people think. I'm going to back us for a 2-1 win. But I could absolutely see a 1-1 draw. I wouldn't be surprised if that happened at all. And then we can run it back in a couple of days at your place in the cup. So, we'll have to wait and see what happens. But, mate, thanks so much for coming on as always. Greatly appreciated. If people want to check out what you guys are doing, let them know where to go.
Yeah, of course. You can see above me, Loaded Mag NUFC for all your Newcastle United content. We'll be back with the review of the game on Sunday. We'll be obviously looking at the game on Wednesday. May even be doing a watch along at some point, so we will definitely be available for that. So come and subscribe to us. We like I said, we're a fair channel. We obviously talk Newcastle United. We, as you know, Charlie, we do talk other clubs as well. So feel free to come and sub to us and check out our content.
Yeah, guys, make sure you do that. I'll be tagged in the title. Loads of great stuff over there. Myself and Don were on the other night, so make sure you go and check out our thoughts on the game over there as well. And yeah, guys, make sure you're subscribing to myself, smash the likes, leave your thoughts in the comments, all of that good stuff, and we'll catch you again in another one soon.